how do you explain the idea that there's good seed and there's bad seed, and it seems like the bad seed are bad all the way through, and the good are good all the way through? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, any ideas about that? Or
that opens up a whole can of worms about whether
Yeah.
or not people choose to become Christians or not. I'm not going to touch on that much, except that the Bible seems to advocate both, in terms that we're told specifically in Galatians, I think, that God predestined us before the foundation of the world. It might be Ephesians, but I think it's Galatians.
I think it's stated multiple times
Yes.
throughout the New
It
Testament.
specifically says predestined before. In love, He predestined us before the foundation of the world.
Oh,
We can
okay.
watch.
And it uses
Blameless
that word
before Him in
predestined.
love.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's Galatians. Maybe. But, so he says specifically, you were predestined before the foundation of the world. But then he talks to us all the way through as though we're making choices. He never says, like, dude, if you're not a Christian, well, sorry, sucks to be you. I mean, you should have chosen to be predestined better.
Right.
He specifically talks to us and makes rational arguments and talks to us as though we're intelligent beings that can make decisions. So in some way, they're both coexisting. It seems impossible, but if the Bible says these two things are coexisting, even if I don't understand it, there's something else going on. Now, for those of you who are watching this and don't know where I am, I'm a graduate student at IIT, so I'm going to be real nerdy here for a moment. There's something called the particle-wave duality of light, which means that light behaves as both a wave and a particle, depending on what aspect of it you're measuring. Really, it's just light is governed by a system of equations that have both particle and wave properties, and actually matter itself functions the same way too. The reason you have electrons in discrete orbitals is because otherwise their waves would interact and collapse. So, but I just use it as an example, usually with people that are also engineers, but of something that seems like it shouldn't exist and yet somehow does. Somehow, predestination and free will are both existing.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, cool. So one thought I've had, and I'm learning as I'm thinking about this parable, it's my understanding of it is developing, and I appreciate your explaining it. I think it's very clear and concise, and it's probably something that I'm going to use in the film to kind of compare the muddled thinking of the world with, someone who understands the parable. But I don't know, like, we're only those who are born again can enter the kingdom of heaven. So somehow, this is just my thinking now, is we all start out the wheat. And unless we die and are born again and are reborn as a wheat. And so it's not just a matter of just changing gradually. We don't just change gradually from a wheat to a weed. We have to die to our sin and die to ourselves and actually experience the regenerated heart to be born again as something new, a new creation. So
Yeah.
I don't know what you
For
think
those
about
of you who don't quite understand the terminology of being born again, the Bible refers to the process of becoming a Christian as being such a radically new identity, something completely changed from the very core of your being, your change. And it's described as dying and being born a second time. It's meant to emphasize just how much of a radical change. It's not just one part of your worldview changes when you become a Christian. It's a complete and total transformation. Everything changes. Your allegiances totally change. The Bible refers to people that aren't Christians as at war with God. So all of a sudden, in the biggest struggle that has ever existed between God and the forces of evil, you've just switched sides. That's a big change. You can't really say that was just one aspect of your personality changing. It's a really big deal.